and I stabbed. When I was finished stabbing him, he took out his last breath, a grunt.
In the quiet town of Colorado, nestled amidst the Rocky Mountains, the air was fresh, and the sense of community was strong. But beneath this idyllic facade, a chilling tale was about to unfold that would shatter the tranquility of this peaceful town. In the heart of the town lived a seemingly ordinary teenager. He was known for his quiet demeanor and introverted nature. He was neither the star athlete nor the class valedictorian, but just another face in the crowd. Little did anyone know, beneath this ordinary exterior lurked a dark secret.
And I paused, and he said, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "I've been wanting to do this for a long fucking time. Murder someone."
Meanwhile, on the streets of downtown Grand Junction, a homeless man named Warren Barnes found solace in the world of books. Despite his circumstances, he was known as the reading man in the community. He was a familiar figure in the breezeway between 5th and 6th Streets. For a long time, the old man was often seen reading a book on a bench in a small walkway off the main road. Barnes was often spotted at the back of the shop, resting on an old bamboo chair against the warm brick wall, placed there by Lenati. On a Monday, the 1st of March, Barnes was missing from his usual spot, and he hadn't visited the People Ready job agency either. Concerned, Lenati called the police after hearing that the job agency staff were also worried because it was unusual for him not to check for work. Brian Cohee, a 19-year-old with a troubled past, was known as Dahmer in high school due to his interest in the infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer and themes of death. He resided with his mother, Terry Cohee, who has operated a daycare named Terry's Toddlers from their home since Brian was a child. His father, a carpenter named Brian Thomas Cohee, lived in a different location. The affidavit highlighted Cohee's alarming behavior, including a confession to the police about killing and beheading a cat 3 years prior, keeping the remains at home for days, and his admission of indifference towards people.
It was 2018 Halloween. A stray black cat had been coming around our house. It was at my dad's, and I was thinking about killing him. I then hid the body in a shoebox, and then I disposed it in the trash and got away with it.
The truth came to light when the teenager's mother made a gruesome discovery in her son's closet. Terry Cohee, with a sense of dread pooling in her stomach, found a white trash bag that seemed out of place. The contents, she feared, were too grim to contemplate. Overcome with shock and horror, she immediately called the police. Her suspicion led to the swift arrest of her son, Brian Cohee II, who now faced the gravest of accusations: first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and the desecration of a human body. The teenager was taken into custody. The Grand Junction Police Department's affidavit for the arrest of the suspect, Brian Cohee II, reveals that he had been planning a violent act and observing homeless camps for half a year before he randomly chose Barnes as his victim.
Stripped his clothes. I cut open his belly to see his guts. They're really pink. Sorry, that was morbid.
He relinquished his legal protections and began to recount the harrowing details of his crime. Dressed in blue coveralls, his face obscured by a mask and his hands shielded by 3 layers of rubber gloves.
I put on 3 layers of gloves because plastic gloves can betray their users because they're so thin, those vinyl gloves, by imprinting your fingerprints through.
He set out into the night with a sinister intent. Around the witching hour, beneath the shadow of a bridge, he found his unsuspecting victim, shrouded by a canvas tarp, lost in slumber. With a 12-inch kitchen knife, a weapon he had reserved for this very moment, he initiated a brutal assault.
Is it okay if I do a demonstration? Oh, yeah. This is him. I was straddled on top of him like this. Okay. And he couldn't fight back.
The old cowboy beneath the tarp, awakened by terror, could only muster a feeble, "Why are you attacking me?"
In his old man voice, he was in his 50s. I know why I call him an old man. He was saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why? Ah!" And I just kept on stabbing his neck.
as Cohee's knife descended. In the aftermath, the perpetrator meticulously dismembered the body.
And then I cut off his right arm at this joint and at this joint. And then at this arm, I tried cutting it here.
Casting the arms aside and transporting the head and hands back to his home.
There's an arm, there's another arm. Okay, hold on. Do some pictures.
I destroyed his eyes by stabbing them in.
Okay.
And then I cut off his hands. I put those in plastic Ziploc bags.
The rest he callously discarded into the Colorado River, not far from where the victim's wallet would eventually be discovered. But the night's grim deeds were not yet complete.
Then I cut off his head. I gave him a Glasgow smile.
What's that?
A Joker smile.
Cohee attempted to erase the evidence of his crime by driving his car down a boat ramp, a place he remembered in his memory by his father's charitable efforts to provide life jackets to rivergoers. Fate, however, intervened, and his car became ensnared by the water's edge, partially submerged and immovable. In desperation, he reached out to a friend, who by chance was nearby, imploring them to help free his car from its watery trap. This area, typically bustling with life and activity during daylight hours, was now the silent witness to the aftermath of a heinous act. As the investigation unfolded, Cohee's demeanor was unsettling. There was no hint of regret, no shadow of guilt. Instead, he seemed excited by his recounting of the murder. His choice of victim, a homeless man, was deliberate, born from a belief that society's gaze would be averted, that such a life was somehow less worthy of justice.
I drove back in a different outfit, picked up his body, surprisingly heavy, put it in my trunk, and drove to the Blue Heron drop-off station.
His confession was as cold as the night air that had witnessed his crime.
15 years, probably.
I have no idea.
Because
We're at the beginning.
it's murder. I mean, I'm going to jail for 20, probably, but
The trial was a heart-wrenching affair, with 2 weeks of testimony that brought jurors to tears. The evidence was so disturbing that some details couldn't be shared with the public.
Judge Richard Gurley said after 37 years of serving different capacities in the court system, including 16 years as a judge, this is one of the most horrific cases he's ever experienced. Judge Gurley sentenced Cohee to the rest of his natural life in prison, plus 13 and a half years without parole.
After about 2 days of deliberation, the jury found Cohee guilty of all charges. Cohee was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His mother, Terry Cohee, expressed their family's deep and sincere sympathies to the community and family of Mr. Barnes.
we had a conversation where he said, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "I felt like doing this for a long time." I continued. He died, deceased, whatever you want to call it. He let out a final gasp,
Okay.
and he wasn't fighting later on. He was losing too much energy, blood loss.
Okay.
And he just finally gasped, and I needed to make sure, peace of mind, so I decapitated him.
The case of Brian Cohee serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. It also underscores the importance of not overlooking the most vulnerable members of our society, like Warren Barnes, who despite his circumstances left a lasting impression on those who knew him.